Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So in this video we are going to discuss biomechanics of the spine in detail, and I have make very easy for you, and everything is explained by the help of the diagram. So let's start. So to start with, we will discuss about the basic human spine. So let's begin with that. So the basic human spine consists of 33 vertebrae which are divided into 5 regions: cervical, thoracic, lumbar, sacrum and coccyx. So in the cervical vertebra you will see 7 vertebrae, and in thoracic you will see 12 vertebrae, lumbar 5, sacrum 5 fused vertebrae and coccyx 4 fused vertebrae in coccyx. And another thing you need to remember is there are two types of curves present in the normal spine: kyphotic curve and lordotic curve. So kyphotic curve is basically anteriorly concaved. Kyphotic curve is anteriorly concaved, and the lordotic curve is posteriorly concaved. Okay, so the cervical and the lumbar is lordotic curve, and the thoracic region is comes in the kyphotic curve. So basically 3 types of curves present in the normal spine. Sorry about the disturbance in the background because it's a lot of rush over here. I'm shooting in the day, so yeah. So basically there are 3 type of deformities with the spinal curve. So first is scoliosis. In scoliosis you will see abnormal lateral curve more than 10 degree, that is also called as a twisted disease. The next one is kyphosis, which is exaggerated thoracic curve. Exaggerated thoracic curve, also known as the humped disease. So you will see the thoracic region is very much curved. In the lordosis you will see that the bent back, so the individual more goes to backward position. So that was lordosis. So 3 types of the deformities of the spinal cord. So now we will look at the basic structure of a typical vertebra. So you can see the front view, which is this is spinous process. These are the lamina. This is the transverse process. The 2 pointed things on the lateral side is transverse process. This is the vertebral foramen. These are the arches of the vertebra. This is the body of the vertebra, and these which attaches all the irregular structures with this body is called as pedicel. This is pedicel. So now look at the lateral view. So laterally you will see this is the vertebral body. This is a superior articular process, which is like this in this view. This is the superior articular process. This is the vertebral foramen. Upside you will see vertebral foramen, and this is the inferior articular process. Inferior. So downward side inferior articular process. So this is the basic structure, left to right side view of a typical vertebra. So a typical vertebra consists of 2 major parts, anterior and posterior. Anterior part is basically a cylindrical shaped vertebral body, and the posterior part is pedicel, and this all the irregular posterior elements come in the posterior part. So anterior part and the posterior part. So now we'll look at the parts of the vertebra and comparing all of them. So basically the size difference. The cervical vertebra is the smallest, thoracic is intermediate, and the lumbar one is the largest. Coming to the body shape, you will see that in the cervical vertebra the body is the small oval, and in the thoracic vertebra the body is heart shaped, and in the lumbar vertebra you will see a large oval. Coming to the foramens, the foramen is large triangular, and in this thoracic you will see the foramen is smallest, and in this foramen is intermediate. And the size simultaneously increase from cervical to lumbar. And also coming to the spinous process, the spinous process is short and bifid, and in the thoracic you will see the spinous process is long and point inferiorly, and In the lumbar, you will see the spinous process is very thick and pointed posteriorly. Okay, so coming at the lateral view of the apophyseal joint orientation. So in the cervical, you will see the joint orientation at the 45 degree of apophyseal joint, and in the thoracic it's at 60 degree, and in the lumbar it's at 90 degree. So if we talk about the articular processes, so there are two type of articular processes. The one is superior articular process, which you can see in this vertebra, and in the side view you can see the inferior articular process. So two type of articular processes, and in the sagittal plane the articular process form a supportive column, frequently referred as the articular pillar. So when you look at the sagittal plane, it looks like a supportive column, also called as the articular pillar. So in the vertebral column, you will see intervertebral disc between the two vertebrae. So these are the two vertebrae, and this is the intervertebral disc. So the main job of the intervertebral disc is to increase the available motion, and also it transmits the load from one vertebra to another. So it helps to transmit the load between the one vertebra to another. And also the size of intervertebral disc is depend upon the amount of the motion, and also the magnitude of the loads must be transmitted. So the one more thing you need to remember is the intervertebral disc is absent between the cervical 1 and cervical 2. Along with that, it is also not present between the sacrum and coccyx. So now talking about the annulus fibrosus and nucleus propulsus. So annulus fibrosus is basically the outer ring. These ring-like structures you see, these are called as annulus fibrosus, and this inside cushiony structure is nucleus pulposus. So annulus fibrosus, the outer rings are majorly ligaments and the inner rings are fibrocartilages, and they are very supportive and structural. In the nucleus pulposus, you will see the inner disc, which is majorly a cushiony pad, and it's also shock absorber. More thing you need to remember is the intervertebral disc make up about 20 to 33% of the length of the vertebral column. Majorly 1/3 part of the vertebral column is intervertebral disc, and it increases the size from the cervical to the lumbar region. And also the disc thickness is approximately 3 mm in the cervical region and 9 mm in the lumbar region, because the weight bearing in the lumbar region is the largest, and in the cervical it is the lowest. So basically, if we talk about the articulation, so interbody joint, this is basically interbody joint. The available motion at interbody joint is gliding, distraction, compression and rotation. It is also called as tilt or rocking in the spine. So the gliding motion can occur in the following directions, which are anterior to posterior, medial to lateral and torsional. So in the three directions you will see the gliding motion in the interbody joint. So the tilt motion can occur in anterior to posterior and in the lateral direction. So these motion together with the distraction and compression constitute 6 degree of freedom. So basically 6 degree of freedom is there in interbody joint. Okay. So you can see in this diagram. So basically, which I told you, annulus pulposus and annulus fibrosus. So basically in the disc, intervertebral disc, you see the structure in the center nucleus pulposus, and in the side annulus fibrosus. Also I'm gonna show you interbody joint movements. So basically this movement is called side to side translation, also called as gliding. This movement is called gliding, where these vertebrae move like this over each other. And the second movement is superior to inferior translation. So basically this, also called as compression movement. So one vertebra moves on another like compression thing. The next one is anterior-posterior translation, which occurs in the sagittal plane. The next one is side-to-side rotation, which is also called as tilting. So basically this kind of movement on each other. Next is rotation. So rotation occurs like this in the transverse plane around the vertical axis. So the last one is anterior-posterior rotation, also called as tilting, which occurs in the sagittal plane around the frontal axis. So kind of this. So now we will talk about the ligaments at the joint capsule. So basically 6 type of main ligaments which are associated with the intervertebral and zygapophyseal joints. So anterior longitudinal ligament, which is present on the anterior side of the vertebra. Posterior longitudinal ligament, which is present on the posterior side of the vertebra. Next is ligamentum flavum, which is present here. Present here is ligamentum flavum. Interspinous ligament, which attaches the spinous processes of the vertebrae. Interspinous ligament. The next is supraspinous ligament, which is these superior articular process which I told, these articulates with this ligament. And intertransverse ligament, the transverse process is attached through this ligament. Now we will talk about a basic introduction of all these ligaments. So anterior longitudinal ligament, which is basically well developed in the lordotic section. So wherever you see you remember the lordotic curve which I told you in the beginning, which is basically in the cervical and the lumbar region. So it is well developed over there. Also the tensile strength of the ligament is greatest at the high cervical, low thoracic and lumbar region, with the greatest strength in the lumbar region, because as we know the lumbar region has the most weight bearing site. So basically in this diagram I am going to explain the posterior longitudinal ligament and the anterior longitudinal ligament biomechanics. So before that, I hope you know what is the flexion of the vertebra and the extension of the vertebra. If you don't know, I will just explain you. So flexion of the vertebra is basically moving forward. Extension of the vertebra is moving backward. Okay. So whenever you at extension, so posterior vertebra during extension, that's obvious, when you move back, the ligament is present on the posterior side, it compresses. Okay. So whenever you extend, the anterior vertebra compresses and the posterior vertebra extends. I hope you get it now. So anterior vertebra compresses whenever you at flexion, and posterior vertebra compresses when you are at extension. Simple. So now let's talk about ligament flavum. So that is a thick elastic ligament, strongest in the lower thoracic region and weakest in mid cervical region. So most of the ligaments are weakest in the cervical region because that's not a that much weight bearing site. And highest strain in this ligament occur during the flexion when the ligament is stretched. So obviously when you do flexion, moving the front part, this is stretched, this ligament gets stretched because it's present on the posterior side. So obviously that will be the highest strain on this ligament. So now talking about the interspinous ligament, which attaches these two spinous processes together. So this ligament contribute to the lumbar spine stability. So it basically gives stability and it degenerate with aging. Okay. So now this is the supraspinous ligament. Also it is just same like intraspinous ligament. It stretches during flexion and also hyperflexion. The supraspinous ligament along with the intraspinous ligament is first to fail. So basically these two fail whenever the individual is at hyperflexion. So basically talking about the intertransverse ligament which basically attaches these transverse processes together. So basically the ligament is alternately stretched and compressed during lateral bending. So if you are bending at this side compresses, and if you are bending on this side will stretch and this compresses. Okay. So that's obvious, when you are bending towards the left, the right side will stretch and offer resistance, and when you are bending towards the right, the left side will stretch and offer resistance to the motion. Basically the vertebral column is subjected to axial compression, tension, bending, torsion and shear stress during the normal activities, also at rest. So whenever the individual is at rest or also doing normal activity, these tensions are there in the vertebral column. So basically, if we talk about the kinetics of the vertebral column, so it varies upon the spinal region. So the kinetics is the different in the cervical, thoracic and lumbar. Okay, so basically depends upon the type, duration and the rate of loading. How much load on the vertebra, which type of the vertebra is that, and duration. Also depending upon the person age and the posture, and condition and properties of various structure elements are vertebral column, joint, disc, muscle, joint capsule and ligaments. So axial compression, so force acting through the long axis of the spine. So long axis of the spine, the force acting at the right angle of the disc occurs in the result of force of gravity, ground reaction forces and force produced by ligament and muscular contraction. These all are the axial compressions. So there is no such thing to remember this. I tried a lot, but these are the things you need to remember on your own. If you talk about the bending, so bending causes both compression and tension in the structure of spine. So whenever the vertebra bends, it causes compression and tension. And also during the forward flexion, which is in this moment, this forward flexion, the anterior structures, these anterior structures basically compresses and the posterior structures are at tension. So there are two type of another movements as well. Those are torsion and shear. So torsion forces are created during axial rotation that occurs at the part of coupled motion that take place in the spine. So this kind of forces tries to twist the bone along the long axis. So you can read about torsion and shear in detail by searching them, or also you can check them in your books. So now we will discuss about the kinematics. So these motion available to the column whole are flexion, extension, lateral flexion and rotation. So this diagram basically tells you the moments available in each vertebral column. So basically in the cervical you will look at flexion, extension, lateral rotation, and at atlanto-occipital joint you will see only flexion and extension happening, and in the atlanto-axial joint you will see rotation. In the thoracic you will see only rotation, in the lumbar flexion, extension and lateral flexion, and in the sacral there is no movement. So this chart is a very easy way to remember all the movements of the vertebral column. This diagram basically show you the lateral bending, axial rotation and pelvic rotation towards left to right. So it's time to discuss about the kinematics of flexion and extension. So it's obvious during the flexion, the anterior portion compresses and the posterior portion comes to stress. And during extension, you will see the anterior portion is at stretch and the posterior portion compresses. Okay, so the annulus fibers are stretched and the posterior portion of the disc bulge posteriorly. Okay. The kinematics of the lateral flexion is that whenever comes to the lateral flexion or rotation of the vertebra, you will see the transverse ligament is at tension. So these transverse ligament are at tension during lateral flexion, and along with that the superior vertebra tilts laterally and rotates over the adjacent vertebra. So that was the end of the video. I hope you guys now understood the entire biomechanics of the spine. I have worked hard on this video, so please give a thumbs up and also share this video to all your friends, and thanks for watching.